Bottom of the hour now, and looky, this is the time every Saturday where we do see Lenny and Maria, our good political friends, but we got them down to Atlanta, got them in the building. It's really good to have you guys here.
It's great to be here, DJ.
It's so much better to argue in person.
Absolutely.
It's so much more fun, right?
Okay, well, we just saw this, I don't know if you all were able to hear it, but our Romney event, he took some questions, and it's perfect to talk about Romney right now because we got into it, again, in the makeup room, talking to you guys, where you were asking the question, does Romney even matter at this point? Is he even in the game? What are you talking? And I said, of course he is. The guy's been at 20% for the past, I don't know, 5 years.
And that's the problem. Yeah. And even with what some of his comments were, what's the first question he got pretty much? Herman Cain asked to contrast with Newt Gingrich. He's avoiding contrasting himself with Gingrich right now. He had a chance to go mano-a-mano with Gingrich. He declined that debate, which has allowed Huntsman to take on Gingrich in that debate to hope that he can get some traction. But when you're staying satisfied with that 20%, and he's kind of, you know, a little wishy-washy about Iowa, and we're already looking at Gingrich ahead in Iowa, Gingrich will probably win South Carolina, and Gingrich is smoking him right now in Florida. Romney has to do something different now, or else it's game, set, match before we get to Super Tuesday.
But Maria, what's wrong with 20%? Everybody'd be happy to be at 20%.
Well, he certainly has been consistent at 20 to 22 to 25%. But the problem is, in his whole political life, that's the only thing that he's been consistent about. And that is the problem with his ceiling, because a lot of conservatives do not trust this guy. They just don't see him as being a real conservative. And frankly, a lot of independent voters don't see him as somebody that is trustworthy. Why? Because he has been literally on the opposite side of every major issue that has faced this country in the past 10 years.
Okay, listening to you two, you sound like this is now Newt Gingrich's to lose.
Right now,
Either one of you all going that way?
Well,
right now it is, yes.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I certainly would not go that far because, again, Newt Gingrich is somebody who, it all depends on what he does with this surge, and it all depends on which Newt we see. Is it good Newt? Is it new Newt? Or is it bad Newt? Is it the old Newt?
What's bad Newt? What's bad Newt?
Bad Newt is the Newt that is undisciplined, is the Newt, and frankly, we have seen this thus far, the Newt that thinks he's better than everybody else. He's already talked about himself about being the inevitable nominee. We saw him a couple of days ago talking about how really poor children only don't know what it's like to have an honest day's work. Yeah. So I mean, those are the things that are going to get him into trouble.
Is that a bad Newt necessarily? Will that play pretty well with the voters he's going after right now, the conservative voters, or is that going to be a problem down the road?
In a soundbite cycle, it is a bad Newt.
Okay.
In context of the full development of what he actually said, it's not as bad as it is, and it is his to lose. The bottom line is we've gone through the iterations of other candidates. Right now, it's not going to be Paul, it's not going to be Santorum. We've already gone through Bachmann, gone through Perry, gone through Cain. It is Gingrich's momentum to lose, and particularly Florida. Once we see what happens in Florida, if he loses this large lead, and this 30-point lead all of a sudden becomes a 12-point lead within the next couple of weeks, that's when you can sit there and say he's lost it. Bad Newt has come out, if you will, and now we don't know who the nominee is going to be.
And nobody can have a second surge, in you all's opinion. Everybody had their turn.
Romney has the organization to have a second surge, but he doesn't have the momentum or the energy. But he hadn't had an initial surge.
I mean, he's steady as they go, but I'm talking about like a Bachmann or when Cain is a different story now, but Perry, they had their moment in their life.
You never know what can happen with John Huntsman. He's the only one. Maybe he hasn't had his surge. Exactly. So maybe he's next in line. But I think what's interesting to note here also is that in terms of Newt Gingrich, he does have a lot of baggage, but people do understand what that baggage already is. And so, to a certain extent, he kind of gets a pass on that. The issue, though, is, again, which Newt is going to come out, and when is that Newt going to come out? Lenny's right in terms of the momentum and the surge is happening at exactly the right time for Newt and exactly the wrong time for Romney. And we're seeing Romney sort of, we've talked about this, and we have heard his staff talk about how they don't know how to deal with the Newt surge because this was never in their plan.
In the plan. All right, you all stay with me. I'm going to take a quick break, but I need to remind our viewers here what I'm going to be talking to them about when we come back, and also something we're standing by is going to take place in about 25 minutes from now. Herman Cain is going to be opening his campaign headquarters on the same day. He's supposed to make a big announcement about where his campaign is going to go moving forward. Some have speculated he may even drop out of the race today. But again, this event starting in about 25 minutes from now. We'll be talking about Kaine, also talking about President Obama, taxes. We've got to talk to them about everything since we got him in town. Stay with us. 38 past the hour, back with our political strategists, Democrat Maria Cardona and also Lenny McAllister, Republican. We were talking about Herman Cain. We can show this picture again. He's expected to open his campaign Atlanta headquarters today. This is the same day he is going to be making some big announcement, some speculating that he could drop out of the race. Just had his first face-to-face meeting with his wife last night since the whole allegation came out this week about a 13-year affair. Is there any way, guys, you have a grand opening and a grand closing of a campaign headquarters in the same day? That's just not going to happen, is it?
Not the same day, I don't think, but it goes back to what we were talking about before. Saving face, trying to leave the campaign with grace. We oftentimes focus on these candidates and what they've done and how they've screwed stuff up. But we don't look at the people behind the candidates, the people that have given money and time and confidence and hope. How do you transition out when you've let those people down, but you still want them to be inspired for the election? You still want them to contribute to America. So that should go into the thought process as well, which is why there should be a delay between opening and closing, just for the sake of those people, if nothing else.
Okay, that's offensive. You can't get all these people together and say, stick with my campaign, and if he knows he's going to get out, he's got big-time people coming in for this thing. A lot of people.
You can say that you're going to suspend the campaign,
but the problem is, TJ, unfortunately, I don't think that Herman Cain is doing any of this for those followers at all. I don't think, and I have had this theory about Herman Cain from the very beginning. Okay. He was never in this to win this. And I think that's the big reason why he finds himself in this situation. I think that he was in this to sell books. He was in this to maybe get on the speaking circuit and make a lot of money. The surge that we have seen has surprised you, me, Lenny, but most of all, I think it has surprised Herman Cain. He doesn't know how to deal with it. I don't even know that his thought process has even brought him to, can he quit the campaign and open up the headquarters in the same day? And his staff is not an experienced staff that has ever run a presidential campaign. So I don't think any of those thought processes, unfortunately, are going through Herman Cain's or his staff's minds right now.
I don't know. I mean, what I'm looking at is part of the reason why Herman Cain rose to the top is because of the influence of the Tea Party movement. And because of that, it is the bizarro type of campaign that we talked about previously. We don't have a template for this. So when you're talking about a Tea Party candidate that went from 1% to 2% that nobody heard of, no name ID, to the top of the polls, is there a template of how you get out of that campaign? Maybe it is, I suspend my campaign and I'm going to suspend it for 2 weeks and then you make an announcement that you come out, or maybe you sunset the way I had mentioned previously.
Okay, wrap with the relevance of this, guys, because a lot of people will sit here and say, this is a guy, no matter where he was in the polls, he wasn't going to get the nomination. And now, certainly, he's not going to get the nomination, but he's commanding so much attention right now. That's, yes, maybe our fault, media's fault, whatever you want to call it, but at the end of the day, is he relevant in any way in this campaign as you see it, other than maybe his followers are going to go to somebody else? But it looks like most of them are going somewhere else anyway.
I think the only relevance in here is how not to run a presidential campaign. And it becomes a textbook case for anybody in the future who's looking to be a serious candidate, how not to do it.
I don't know. There's a little bit more relevance to this because now what they're going to do is they're going to look at other candidates in the GOP field and say, did we vet Cain enough? We gave our Tea Party support and our momentum, and we drove it behind him and drove him to the top of the polls, and look what happened.
So you're saying lesson learned?
It may be a lesson learned when it comes to Gingrich, maybe even Romney. Perhaps if Huntsman gets into this mix some type of place, maybe they actually are a little bit more thorough with how they give their support moving into 2012.
Real quickly,
but I think one thing that we have to take into consideration is the reason that Herman Cain surged in the first place is because Republicans were so desperate to find the anybody but Romney. And they are still desperate to find the anybody but Romney. And Gingrich has now been the beneficiary of that.
All right, guys. Lenny Maria will be with us throughout the morning. Be with us tomorrow as well, but we got a lot of politics to talk about today. So something might pop waiting on this event to take place with Herman Cain. Supposed to get started here in about 20 minutes, opening a campaign headquarters, and then we're going to hear from him in just a bit. Big announcement coming from Herman Cain. Stay with us.